Human accidentally triggered an alien girl's bond mark, but the meaning was nothing like he feared. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's return to our main character. The first thing Ethan Cole felt was the cold, sharp, dry, and biting through the tiny cracks in his damaged suit like threads of ice. His boots skidded against a slab of slick crystal, and for a heartbeat the whole cavern seemed to breathe around him, the walls shimmering with trapped pale blue light. His visor flickered as the temperature warning pulsed red. Even with the suit's heater straining, the air felt like it could snap in half if he moved too fast. He steadied his breathing, the sound loud in his helmet, a steady rhythm against the eerie quiet. Snowflakes drifted from a fracture in the ceiling 30 feet above, swirling like silver dust before vanishing against the ground. Somewhere deeper in the cave, a faint glow rippled, too warm, too steady to be reflected ice. Ethan swallowed, raising his small handheld beacon, its yellow beam trembling across uneven walls. "Great," he muttered, his voice fogging the inside of the visor. "Cole, you absolute genius. Trip the wrong panel, fall through a maintenance hatch, and end up in the freezer section of an alien planet." He took one careful step, then another, boots crunching against frost. His shoulder ached from the earlier fall, but the glow ahead, soft, blue-white, pulled him forward. A shape shifted. Ethan froze. The glow gave way to the outline of someone curled against the wall. Not human, not suited. A slender figure, skin faintly luminous, like moonlight reflecting on water. A girl. An alien girl. Her breathing was shallow, her right arm held at an awkward angle. Ethan's heartbeat kicked up, louder than the wind howling through the broken ceiling. He crouched slowly, lifting his beacon. "Hey," he said softly, voice muffled. "You're hurt. I'm not going to touch you unless I have to. Just stay with me, okay?" Her eyelids fluttered. Silver-irised eyes met his, unfocused but alert enough to register presence. She tried to shift, but the movement sent a wince across her face. Ethan hesitated only a breath before reaching toward her shoulder where the fabric of her suit had torn, exposing a faintly glowing mark beneath her collarbone. A swirl, delicate, alive with light. He barely grazed the skin while checking the injury. The mark flared. A gentle pulse. Then a brilliant flash of blue-silver light. Ethan jerked back, nearly losing his balance on the ice. The girl inhaled sharply, eyes widening in shock, then in something he couldn't read. Not anger. Not fear. Something heavier, deeper. The mark shimmered like starlight beneath her skin. "No, no, no," she whispered, voice trembling with an accent he didn't recognize. "Human, do you know what you've done?" Ethan blinked at her, cold air prickling his neck. I was just trying to help." She closed her eyes briefly, as if gathering her breath. When she opened them again, they gleamed like polished metal. "You touched my bond mark." Ethan swallowed hard. "Is that bad?" Her pupils tightened. "For my kind, it changes everything." The cave fell silent again. But the quiet felt different now. Charged, heavy, like the air held its breath with them. For a moment, Ethan could only hear his own breathing, shallow and quick inside the helmet, mixing with the faint hum of the suit's failing heater. The glow on Leary's collarbone softened from a sharp flash to a quiet shimmer that pulsed in slow intervals, like a heartbeat made of light. She stared at it with a mixture of disbelief and something that looked almost like concern. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, trying to fight the rising sense of panic. "Look," he said carefully, forcing calm into his voice. "I did not mean to trigger anything. I was just checking your injury. That is all." Leary's eyes lifted to him, the silver in them reflecting the dim beam of his handheld light. Her expression softened just a little. "Intent does not matter for the bond mark," she murmured. "It responds only to meaning." Ethan blinked. "Meaning?" She drew a slow breath, steadying herself. "My people believe the mark chooses when someone touches it with genuine concern." Her gaze flicked over Ethan's face, studying him as though she could see every thought behind his visor. "It is very rare." Ethan shifted. Awkwardly, boots sliding an inch on the ice. "Well, I do not know about Rare, but you were hurt. I am not going to leave someone alone in a freezing cave. Leary's brows lowered slightly, as if trying to reconcile his words with her own understanding. The pulsing mark cast faint rings of light across the icy wall, and the cave suddenly felt a little less cold. A drop of melting frost hit the ground with a soft plink. She winced when she shifted again, her injured shoulder trembling. Ethan immediately knelt beside her, moving slowly so he did not startle her. Let me help you sit up, he said. If we stay here too long, both of us are going to turn into ice sculptures. She hesitated. You are not afraid of me? The genuine surprise in her voice made Ethan pause. Should I be? Leary looked down at the glowing swirl beneath her skin. Where I am from, a bond mark is not something touched casually. It binds two lives together in ways humans. She stopped, searching for a word. Misinterpret. Ethan felt heat crawl across his face, even in the freezing air. Just to be clear, he said quickly, this is not some kind of lifelong marriage thing, right? Leary let out a small breath that might have been a laugh if she were not trying so hard to stay composed. No. It means I owe you protection. Support. It means I recognize your intention to keep me safe. She paused. It means you cared. Ethan froze at that. Something about the way she said the word cared, with sincerity, without any expectation, landed deeper than he expected. A gust of wind pushed a shower of snowflakes through the fracture above, scattering tiny glints of light across the cavern floor. Leary's chin dipped slightly. Most humans I encountered during training did not show much concern for my people. Ethan steadied her with one arm, guiding her upright. Her skin felt cool even through the suit's fabric, a soft shimmer running along her hair as she adjusted her weight. Maybe you met the wrong humans, he said. She held his gaze, her expression unreadable but no longer guarded. Perhaps. The temperature warning on Ethan's visor flashed again, brighter this time. He glanced at it, then at the narrowing tunnel leading deeper into the cave system. We need to move, he said. There has to be an exit or a warmer pocket somewhere. Leary nodded, gathering her strength. You lead. The bond mark chose you. I will follow. Ethan swallowed, trying not to overthink the weight of her words. He steadied her once more, careful and gentle, and together they stepped into the dim blue glow ahead, their shadows merging as the cave swallowed them back into the dark. The tunnel narrowed as Ethan guided Leary forward, their footsteps muffled by the soft crust of frost beneath them. The air grew denser, warmer by just a fraction, enough that the fog on his visor thinned. His handheld beacon cast a narrow beam that rippled across the ice, bending and scattering through layers like trapped starlight. Leary stayed close behind him, her breathing steady but shallow. Every now and then he caught the soft glow from her bond mark reflecting off the walls, a faint echo following them like a floating ribbon of light. How much farther do you think this goes? Ethan asked quietly. His voice felt too large in the enclosed space, as though the cave itself was listening. Leary scanned the walls, her fingers grazing the air a few inches from the surface. These formations were carved by thermal shifts. There is usually a break in the structure ahead, a hollow pocket or an exit. Usually, Ethan said, raising an eyebrow she could not see but might have heard in his tone. Your confidence is inspiring. Leary tilted her head slightly, a small spark of humor warming her features. You asked for an estimate, not a promise. The narrow path opened into a wider chamber, its ceiling arching high with frozen columns shaped like glass waves frozen mid-motion. Ethan stepped inside, slowly sweeping the light around. Something in the air was different here. Warmer, yes, but also alive. He could hear faint vibrations, like a distant hum from within the ice. Leary stiffened behind him. This place, she whispered. It resonates. Ethan turned. Resonates with what? Leary knelt carefully, placing her palm near the floor, but not touching it. The bond mark brightened in response, as if reacting to the cave itself. Energy pockets under the surface, she said softly. Stable ones. We can rest here for a moment. Ethan let out a breath he had been holding. The warmth seeped into his suit's insulation, easing the tightness in his chest. He sat near one of the columns, leaning his back against it carefully. Leary followed, lowering herself beside him. For a moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the gentle hum filling the chamber, a rhythm that felt almost like distant singing. Ethan adjusted his glove, glancing at her. Earlier, you said the bond mark responds to meaning. What does that feel like? For you, I mean. Leary hesitated, her eyes reflecting the faint swirl of her mark. It amplifies what is already present, she said quietly. Intentions, emotions, truth, not the dramatic kind, the small ones. She looked at him, studying his face with an intensity that made the space between them feel thinner. When you touched it, it felt like clarity. Ethan swallowed. Clarity about what? Leary looked back at the glowing column, her expression softening. That you were not acting out of obligation. You were acting because you could not leave someone behind. The hum beneath them steadied, almost like it was agreeing with her. Ethan rubbed his hands together slowly. Kindness is not that rare, he said, though his voice dropped a little. Not where I come from. Leary tilted her head. Then your world is fortunate. Mine is, she paused, choosing her words with care. Less forgiving. Ethan was quiet for a moment, listening to the soft resonance moving through the cavern. He shifted slightly, making room for her to lean against the column more comfortably. She seemed surprised by the gesture, then eased into it, her posture relaxing for the first time since he had found her. Thank you, she murmured. For what? Ethan asked. For not treating me like something to fear. The warmth between them settled gently, uncomplicated and steady. Ethan glanced toward the dim passage ahead. When you are ready, he said, we will keep moving. We are getting out of this. Leary nodded, her eyes bright. With the bond mark guiding us, she said softly, I believe you. The chamber hummed around them, holding their quiet like a promise. The hum in the chamber faded into a softer vibration as Ethan and Leary pushed onward, stepping through a narrow opening on the far side of the cavern. The air shifted immediately, warmer by a few degrees, carrying a faint mineral scent that reminded Ethan of heated stone after rain. His visor registered a slight increase in temperature, the warning icon shrinking from bright red to a softer orange. It was not comfortable, but it was survivable. Leary walked beside him now, her steps more stable than before, though she still held her injured shoulder close. The bond mark glowed in slow, even pulses, reflecting across the ice with every movement she made. The resonance back there helped my body regulate, she said quietly. The energy pockets mimic our healing chambers. Ethan nodded. Good. That means we are on the right track. They followed the tunnel until it curved sharply, widening into another chamber. This one was darker, the light from Ethan's beacon swallowed by deep blue walls that rose like polished stone. The surface shimmered faintly, as if a thin layer of frost floated just above it. Leary paused, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. This part of the structure feels different. Ethan angled the beacon toward the nearest wall. Different how? She stepped closer, not quite touching it. It responds. Listen. Ethan held still, straining his ears. At first he heard nothing, but then, softly, a tiny echo bounced back, not from his movements, but from the bond mark's glow. The wall rippled faintly, like the surface of a pond reacting to a dropped pebble. It is recognizing the bond mark, Leary murmured. It is reading us. Ethan blinked. Reading us? As in deciding something. As in allowing us to pass, she replied, her voice steady but low. These formations evolved around my people's older settlements. They are not alive, but they are responsive. Ethan's grip tightened on the beacon. So it will let us through because of you. Leary shook her head once. Because of the mark. It acknowledges shared intent. It acknowledges you. Ethan's throat tightened slightly. He looked at the shimmering surface again, noticing now how the light shifted specifically when he moved. He stepped closer, and the ripples widened, opening a seam barely a foot across. Leary glanced at him. It reacts to your proximity. That is unusual. Unusual how? Ethan asked. Leary hesitated. It means the mark interpreted your intention very strongly. Stronger than I expected. Ethan swallowed, forcing his voice to stay even. Is that good or bad? Leary's expression softened. It is rare. Rare is not bad. The seam widened gradually until a path formed, revealing a sloping corridor coated in frost that glowed softly from within. Ethan tested it with a careful step. Solid. Dry. Not as slippery as the earlier floors. He looked back at her. Stay close. If this thing is reacting to us, I would rather not walk in alone. Leary moved beside him, her shoulder brushing his arm lightly. The mark brightened again, casting shifting patterns across the corridor like drifting constellations. As they walked, the air warmed a little more. Ethan felt the tension in his chest relax, the fear of the cold loosening its grip. His footsteps sounded quieter, cushioned by the strange frost that almost felt soft under his boots. After a few minutes, Leary spoke again, her voice softer than before. "When the mark chose you, I thought it was only responding to the moment. But now," Ethan turned his head slightly. "Now what?" She looked ahead, her eyes reflecting distant light. "Now I think it recognized something I did not see yet." Ethan slowed just a little. "And what is that?" Leary met his gaze fully, no hesitation in her expression. "You are someone who means what he does, even when it costs him." The corridor hummed faintly around them, as if agreeing with her words, guiding them deeper into the glow ahead. The corridor led them into a chamber so still that Ethan's footsteps felt like they were intruding on a held breath. The frost along the floor glowed in soft waves, responding subtly to each movement, as if guiding them toward the center of the room. Overhead, the ceiling arched into a dome of translucent ice, catching faint reflections from Leary's bond mark and scattering them like drifting stars. Ethan swept his beacon in a slow arc. "It almost feels like this place knew we were coming," he said, keeping his voice low. "It reacts to presence," Leary replied, her gaze moving across the shimmering walls. "But not every presence. It chooses what it acknowledges." Ethan tried to ignore the small ripple of warmth that spread across his chest at that. He focused instead on the center of the chamber, where a shallow basin carved into the floor emitted a gentle glow, warmer than the surrounding frost. Thin streams of vapor lifted from it, swirling upward before fading into the cool air. Leary knelt beside the basin, her expression softening. "A thermal bloom," she said. "Natural, safe, and perfect for restoring energy." Ethan lowered himself beside her, letting the warmth radiate through the fabric of his suit. His fingers tingled as sensation returned. "This is incredible," he murmured. "It feels like someone designed it." "Not someone," Leary said quietly. "Nature shaped by resonance over time. My people observed places like this, but never altered them." Ethan studied her profile in the warm glow. Her features looked calmer here, less guarded, softened by the gentle shimmer of the bond mark. "Are you feeling any better?" he asked. Leary exhaled slowly, a breath that carried relief. "Yes, the pain is fading. The mark is stabilizing my energy patterns." Ethan nodded, grateful for any bit of good news. He leaned back on his hands, letting his shoulders relax for the first time since the fall. Leary glanced at him then, her voice quiet but clear. "Earlier, when you helped me, you acted without hesitation. That is unusual." Ethan shrugged lightly. "Someone needed help. That is all. Many would have left," she said, "especially with limited knowledge of my kind. Most humans I met kept their distance." Ethan tilted his head. Maybe they were nervous. Maybe they did not know how to approach without accidentally offending you. A faint smile touched her lips. "You managed to offend me in a remarkably meaningful way." Ethan let out a breath that could have been a laugh. "I'm trying not to think about that too hard." She shifted slightly, the glow from her mark reflecting gently across the frost. "You cared without expectation," she said softly. "My people call that a rare courage." Ethan stared at the basin's glow, letting the warmth ease the tension in his arms. "Where I come from, it is just called being decent." Leary studied him for a long moment before speaking again. "Decent is not common everywhere." The chamber hummed faintly, as if echoing her words. Ethan felt the sincerity in her tone settle into the quiet between them, heavy in a peaceful way. He glanced toward the far side of the chamber where another narrow passageway extended outward, its frost shimmering in a slow pulse that matched the rhythm of Leary's mark. "Looks like the path wants us to keep going," he said. Leary stood, the glow tracing along her silhouette. "Then we follow it together. The bond mark chose the direction, and it chose you." Ethan rose beside her, the warmth of the thermal bloom lingering on his skin as they stepped toward the glowing passage and continued deeper into the unknown. The passage narrowed again as Ethan and Leary moved forward, the faint glow from the walls flowing with them like a gentle current. The air felt warmer than before, carrying a subtle metallic scent that reminded Ethan of heated circuits. His visor displayed a steady temperature now, and the orange warning icon had faded to a pale yellow. It was still cold, but not the kind that bit into bone. Leary walked a half step behind him, her presence steady, her breathing calm. The soft pulses from her bond mark rippled along the walls, guiding their way with a rhythm that felt almost intentional. Ethan slowed when the tunnel opened into a chamber unlike the others. The floor was smooth, almost polished, reflecting the glow from above where hundreds of thin ice strands hung like delicate threads. Each strand held a bead of frost that shimmered faintly, swaying in the gentle movement of air. "This is different," Ethan murmured, sweeping his beacon around. The chamber felt alive in a quiet, watching way. Leary's eyes widened slightly. "A memory hall," she said softly. "Formations like these hold resonance impressions from the environment. They respond to emotional patterns." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Emotional patterns? You mean these strands react to feelings?" Leary nodded. "Strong ones. Fear, hope, trust." She stepped closer to a hanging strand, stopping just short of touching it. Her bond mark glowed softly, and the bead of frost nearest to her brightened in response, glowing with a faint silver sheen. Ethan stared, fascinated. "It reacts to you." Leary glanced at him. "It reacts to us." Ethan approached slowly. As he got closer, several of the frost beads began to glow with pale gold light, forming a soft halo around him. Leary's expression shifted, something like realization crossing her features. "The chamber recognizes your intention again," she murmured. "It sees sincerity. It sees genuine care." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, feeling unprepared for the weight of her words. "I'm just trying to make sure we get out of here. Both of us." She studied him with a quiet seriousness. "That is what it sees." The chamber hummed gently, as if acknowledging her. Ethan walked further in, and the frost beads brightened deeper shades of gold. Leary followed, and silver light from her mark interwove with the gold, casting shifting patterns across the chamber walls. When the two colors blended, the ice strands above resonated softly, producing a gentle harmonic tone that wrapped around them like a calm breath. Leary looked up in surprise. "This harmony is rare," she whispered. "Two emotional signatures aligning. The chamber does not create this for fear or instruction, only for truth." Ethan exhaled, the sound quiet. "Truth," he repeated. Leary stepped closer, her eyes reflecting the gold and silver glow around them. "It means the bond is stabilizing," she said. "Not binding, not claiming. Stabilizing. It is choosing protection and trust over instinct." Ethan felt the chamber's warmth settle over him like a reassuring hand. "That sounds like a good thing." Leary held his gaze. "It is more than good. It means you did not trigger the mark by accident. It chose in response to who you are." The glow surrounding them deepened, merging into a gentle, unified light that followed them as they took their next step forward into the passage beyond. The passage sloped upward, and Ethan felt the air shift again, warmer and carrying a faint vibration that tingled against his suit. The frost beneath their boots softened into a thin mist that curled around their ankles, glowing faintly gold where his presence passed, and silver where Leary walked. The glow trailed behind them like two threads weaving together. Leary glanced upward, her eyes following the faint oscillations in the frost. "We are nearing the outer shell of the cavern system," she said softly. "The temperature gradient says we are close to the surface." Ethan nodded, adjusting his grip on the beacon. "That means we can call for help once we get clear." A tremor rippled through the air, subtle but noticeable. Ethan froze. "Did you feel that?" Leary's bond mark flickered once, then steadied. "Yes. The surface winds are shifting. The structure responds to changes outside." Ethan exhaled, relieved. "For a second I thought the cave was about to close on us." "It will not," Leary said gently. "Not while the mark resonates with the path." They continued forward until the tunnel opened into a wide, bowl-shaped space. Here, the ceiling was higher, almost perfectly smooth, like a frozen dome catching the faint light of distant stars. Ethan raised the beacon and noticed something new. Thin cracks of pale blue light ran along the dome, forming patterns that looked almost intentional, like symbols half-formed by nature. Leary stepped into the center of the chamber and closed her eyes. "This is a convergence point," she said, "a place where the cave's resonance focuses. It can either guide us out, or show what the mark believes needs to be seen." Ethan blinked. "Show us." "Show us what?" Leary did not answer immediately. Her bond mark brightened, sending a soft glow across the floor that spread into a circular pattern. Ethan watched the lines trace outward like gentle ripples. As the light expanded, the chamber's temperature increased slightly, enough to make his visor clear fully. The air smelled faintly metallic and clean. The floor beneath them shimmered, and a soft projection rose from the frost. Not an image, but a memory impression, shaped by the resonance around them. Ethan saw a blur of shapes, not distinct enough to be people, but carrying the outline of someone offering help to another. The colors shifted gently, gold flowing towards silver. Leary opened her eyes, watching the display with him. "The chamber is showing intent," she murmured. "Your intent. It is showing what guided the bond mark." Ethan felt a tug in his chest at the sight. "It is just what anyone should do." "No," Leary said quietly. "It is not what many do. Not with a stranger. Not with someone from another world." The projection dimmed slowly, sinking back into the frost. Ethan looked at her, her features illuminated by the last traces of silver light. "What does this mean for us?" Leary's expression softened in a way he had not seen before, fragile but certain. "It means the bond is not an accident. It means the path is forming because you chose compassion when you had nothing to gain." The dome above them brightened with a pale glow as a seam opened along the far wall, revealing a rising passage filled with steady warm light. Leary turned toward it, her voice quiet but sure. "The way out is open. The bond mark opened it for you, and for me." Ethan inhaled slowly, then stepped beside her as they walked toward the light together. The rising passage guided Ethan and Leary toward a faint glow that felt warmer with every step, a soft radiance that brushed gently against Ethan's visor like the first touch of morning sunlight. The frost beneath their feet thinned into smooth crystal, and the walls shifted from deep blue to pale silver, reflecting the twin colors of their presence. Ethan kept his pace steady, glancing back every few moments to make sure Leary was keeping up. Her injured shoulder no longer trembled. The glow from her bond mark had settled into a calm, steady pulse, shining through the fabric of her suit like a quiet heartbeat. "You are walking easier," Ethan said softly. Leary nodded. "The convergence chamber accelerated healing. The bond adapts to maintain balance between us. It ensures neither of us falls behind." Ethan blinked at that. "It does that. Only when the mark stabilizes," she said. "Only when the bond is mutual." Ethan opened his mouth to reply, but the passage widened suddenly, revealing a balcony of ice overlooking a vast cavern. Ethan stepped forward in awe. The cavern stretched hundreds of feet across, illuminated by glowing veins of light running through the walls like frozen lightning. They converged on a raised platform in the center where crystalline pillars rose in quiet elegance. The air was warm, almost gentle, carrying a feeling Ethan could not quite name. Leary inhaled sharply, her voice a breath. "I know this place." Ethan looked at her. "You recognize it?" She stepped closer to the railing, eyes wide, silver irises shimmering with reflected light. "Yes, this is an ancient resonance cradle. My people used them long ago to test alignment and trust between individuals. The chamber responds only to honest intent. It reveals truth." Ethan frowned slightly. "Truth about what?" Leary turned toward him. "About the bond. About us." Before Ethan could respond, the floor beneath their feet shimmered softly. A path formed from the balcony to the central platform, lighting up in alternating pulses of gold and silver. Leary's eyes lowered to the glowing steps. "It is calling us forward," she said. "It wants to show the mark's interpretation." Ethan cleared his throat. "Interpretation sounds like a strong word. For my people, it is everything," Leary replied gently. "The way the mark chooses to manifest shapes how we move forward." Ethan swallowed, trying to steady his breathing. "And what exactly is it trying to show?" Leary hesitated, then spoke with quiet certainty. "The bond mark reacts when one life recognizes value in another. But when it glows as strongly as it has, it usually means something more significant." Ethan felt his heartbeat echo in his ears. "More significant how?" Leary walked down the glowing path, her steps graceful, the silver light following her like a protective ripple. She stopped halfway and looked back at him. Her expression held none of the guarded distance she had shown when they first met. Instead, her gaze was calm, vulnerable, and somehow resolute. It means, she said softly, that the mark believes you are more than a protector or an ally. It believes you are someone to be trusted with truth, with identity, with what my people call chosen connection. Ethan stood still for a long moment. The gold veins under his boots brightened, responding to his rising emotion. Leary extended her hand toward him. The silver glow wrapped gently around her fingers. Come, she said. The cradle will show the truth if we walk together. Ethan stepped forward, the gold and silver lights merging beneath his feet as he joined her, the warmth of the chamber settling around them like a quiet promise. The central platform responded to their joined steps, the gold and silver threads beneath the ice brightening until the entire chamber glowed with a soft, living radiance. Ethan felt the warmth rise from the floor through his boots, gentle and steady, like a heartbeat reaching upward. Leary stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the pillars as they shimmered with a slow ripple of light. The air grew still, so still that Ethan could hear the faint sound of his own breath echoing in the dome above them. Then the glow shifted. A ring of light formed around the platform, rising from the floor in a smooth arc. It hovered at chest height, circling them with quiet purpose. Leary inhaled softly. This is the cradle's final recognition, she whispered. It will reveal what the bond mark understands to be true. Ethan felt a flutter of nerves. And if it does not like what it finds? Leary shook her head gently. It does not judge. It reflects. It shows the truth that already exists. The ring of light pulsed once. Then the space around them filled with soft projections, forming images shaped not by detail, but by emotion. Ethan saw himself kneeling in the icy cave, reaching out to help a stranger without hesitation. He saw the warmth of his own intentions spreading outward, gold light following his movements. He saw Leary, injured and wary, watching him with a guarded heart that slowly eased as she recognized sincerity. Gold moved toward silver. Silver moved toward gold. The cradle translated their choices into woven strands of light that crossed and merged above them. Leary watched the projection with wide, quiet eyes. It chose alignment, she murmured. Mutual, voluntary, and without imbalance. Ethan glanced at her. Meaning what exactly? She looked at him fully now, silver irises illuminated by the soft glow. Meaning the bond recognized you not as an accident or as an obligation. It recognized you as someone who offered connection freely. Someone who values life without expecting repayment. The projection shifted again, showing two silhouettes, one gold, one silver, standing side by side. Not merged. Not bound. Aligned. Equal. The image faded slowly into the soft glow of the cradle. Leary's voice lowered to a gentle hush. For my people, this is the rarest form of bond. It means trust chosen without promise. It means connection without claim. Ethan exhaled, a slow breath that released the tension he had not realized he was holding. So all this time, I was worrying about the wrong thing. Leary nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. You feared you had taken something from me. But the mark chose to give something to us instead. The ring of light sank back into the floor, dissolving into the warm glow beneath their feet. A path opened on the far side of the platform, leading upward toward a faint outline of daylight. Real daylight. Ethan felt the shift before he saw it, the crisp smell of outside air drifting through the passage. Leary stepped beside him, her posture steady, her injured shoulder now free of strain. The surface awaits, she said softly. Ethan glanced at her, noticing the calm in her eyes, the quiet confidence in her voice. You ready? Leary tilted her head slightly, the silver glow of her bond mark reflecting against the pale light ahead. I am ready, she said, because we walk out together. They moved toward the exit side by side, the warm gold and silver lights fading behind them as the cavern released its last quiet breath. And as they stepped into the soft brightness beyond, the silence that followed was not empty. It was full of meaning.